All right, today let's talk about happiness. Happiness, I think, is overrated. Happiness is a vague word, so in other discussions later on I might use happiness to mean peace, but today let's distinguish happiness from joy and from peace. So happiness is physical. Happiness is the happy juices in your brain. The happy juices can come from a conversation, it can come from eating food, it can come from sex, from television, from from smiling, right? Happiness, smile, right? Joy. Joy is when you accomplish something. And peace is, it's mental, you could say, if you're secular and don't believe in God. It's spiritual if you believe in God. Peace of soul. Peace of mind. So let's, so happiness, right? I realize that happiness is overrated when I realize that an alcoholic is happy 99% of the time. He's just, drinking it up and he's happy, right? He's getting the happy juices flowing around. And yet there's something missing, right? Yeah, I mean, he's got the happiness, but there's just something not there. And so happiness is not all that it's cracked up to be. Joy would be when you accomplish something. And we think of joy where, like, if two parents are sitting around Christmas morning and they're watching their kids opening up presents. This is a joyful scene. But joy, again, it's accomplishing something. It could be a, Scrooge who just accomplished this great deal. It could be, a boxer who just got the belt. It could be a serial mass murderer who, successfully got away with his murder and he's now eating human brains or something. Joy. It's just accomplishing something. Peace is not physical at all. And peace comes about when you have virtue, or when you strive for virtue, because you can never completely accomplish or get virtue, because we're all we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to completely have virtue. So peace would be just in the act of trying to live a virtuous life. And happiness is a real problem in our society, because everybody thinks that they have to be happy all the time. You don't have to be happy all the time. This is why we have all these prescription drugs, all these antidepressants. People aren't happy all the time, and when they're not happy, they think, "Oh, there's something wrong with me." No, there's nothing wrong with you. It's normal. You don't have to be happy all the time. You have tons of people who pursue pleasure, but pursue the physical happiness. But then you have tons of people who are like, smile all the time. And you don't have to. Happiness is a good thing. I'm not up here going after happiness at all. Happiness is awesome. I love it when I'm happy. It's not to be condemned. I'm not speaking in this, good, bad, happiness, bad, peace, good, No, happiness is a good thing, but there's more to life. You need to strive for virtue. Joy, I would say, is probably better than happiness, because it's more substantial. You worked hard for something. The boxer worked hard to get the belt. The serial mass murderer worked hard to plan and plot, and Scrooge worked hard. So there is some virtue there in joy, but it's not everything. I mean, I've heard tons of stories of big boxers or MMA guys. They're like, "Oh, I want the belt, and then they get the belt, and they're not happy. That it's like they've got nothing to fight for anymore. So even joy it doesn't do it. It doesn't cut it. You accomplish something. You you get up the mountain. And you accomplish your goal, and yet if you're just obsessed with that goal, you can be really unhappy instead of just enjoying the journey. It's all about enjoying the journey. So peace is where it's at. You can be completely sad and yet have that peace of soul. You can be angry. You can have any emotion. You can be very emotional. You can, the world can be falling down around you, and yet if you strive for virtue, you'll have something that nobody can take away from you. You'll be this eye of a storm. There's something inside of you that's just calm, and it's this sanctuary of silence and strength, and peace is where it's at. That's what you want. You want that peace. And so, again, try to figure out what virtue is. Don't listen to me. Think about it for yourself. Listen to others. Try to figure out what is virtue, and try to live that virtuous life, and you'll have that peace. And no matter what happens, you won't need the antidepressants. You won't need suicidal thoughts or any of it. You'll have that peace. One awesome concept is flow, right? There's this positive psychology out there, which is a horrible name. It's not self-help stuff, but instead of studying deranged and depressed people like a lot of psychology does, they study the antisocial and all this deranged psychology. Positive psychology tries to study successful, happy people. Like they'll study Einstein instead of studying the guy from Silence of the Lambs. And they'll study their psychology to see what makes them tick, right? And one of the concepts is this concept of flow, right? And flow is like peace, and that's why I'm talking about it. It's this. It's not physical. It's not physical, and flow is when you're working, you lose track of time, and you're just hitting it. You're just working, like like MacGyver, or the A-Team when they're fixing something. They get into this flow where they just start hitting it. The music starts playing, and they're flowing. They're working. And they say that when people flow, people who have more flow in their life tend to have better lives. It's people who work, study hard. They flow, and they tend to have more stable, a more stable mentality, a more stable character, soul, what have you. And so there are things in life, peace and flow, and the spirit, I think the guy who came up with flow, he was an atheist, but positive psychology has all kinds of, Christians and Jews. It's just a psychology. So if you just want to think of it like, and from a secular point of view, you can just say your mind, but those of us who believe in the soul, there's these spiritual things in life, and that's what we're searching for. We're searching for these spiritual things, and happiness is just a cheap substitute. It's not real, or it is real, and it's awesome. It's awesome, but people search for this peace. They search for flow. They search for the spiritual things of life, and they'll grasp at shadows. They'll grasp at happiness instead of peace. They'll grasp at the quick an easy route instead of the flow. And so start thinking more about spiritual things in your life, because that is where it's at. You don't need to spend all that money on antidepressants. Send it to me if you want, because that's where it's at. But you don't need all that stuff. Just search for virtue. Try to figure out what virtue is, and you'll be fine in life. No matter through the good times, through the bad times, you'll be fine.